Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be tackling cross-section templates. Now, arguably, cross-section templates are probably one of the hardest parts of our RoadEng software. So today, we're going to walk through a little bit about how to use them, how to put them together, and then some unique scenarios like bridge templates, etc. But first, before we get started, we've got a little bit of housekeeping here. So for those of you in the live version of the webinar, please do ask questions. You can engage with us throughout the presentation using that Q&A section of your GoToWebinar panel. And for those of you watching this in the future off of our YouTube channel, feel free to ask questions in the comments section below. So our quick agenda for today, before I pass it over to our presenter, we are going to be looking at how to easily work with different components that are found in our e-library. So this could be, how to put them together, how to copy them, how to paste them. There's lots of different components, as well as how to access that e-library in general. We're also going to cover, as I said, a few different scenarios, such as applying a bridge template, how to taper your template, so transitioning between one another, template parameter overrides, what they are and how to use them, and then how to save and share these templates. And obviously, creating and customizing a template does take a fair bit of effort, so you're going to see today, but you only need to do it that one time if this is something you're going to reuse in the future. So saving it and being able to share it is very much an important concept. And with that, enough of an intro. I'm going to pass it over to Dave Mills. He is one of our resident experts here at Softree, and he's going to take us into the webinar and show us how to work with templates.
Thank you very much, Erin. So hopefully you can all see my screen, and you can see that we've got a little road example here. It's a road realignment, and we're looking at, in the profile, you can see we've actually got a little bit of a gully here. I put a culvert at the bottom. And this is an application for a cross-section template because we don't want to have this giant fill and this stupidly long culvert here. We'd like to do something different. So let's take a look at, first of all, the simplest part of templates, assigning them. So here in the plan view, I'm using the same template everywhere. You can see the road width doesn't change. The slope stakes, of course, changes as we move out to the toe of fill. That's what the dashed green line is here. Here's the assign by range control. It's in two places, both in home and in corridor. And assign by range allows me to choose what template is being used. In this case, we're using the same template everywhere. Let's put in a bridge template. That's the easiest thing to do. There's always a BR, no cut fill template on your table. It has no controls. It's completely, it has no options. You can't modify it. What it does is it just removes all cut and fill. So let's go from station 390 to station 440. I figured that out earlier by just looking at the profile on the plan, and add the bridge template for that station range. Recalculate, and there we are. Now we don't need the culvert anymore. Let's get rid of that. And you can see that the road simply stops at station 390. That's the end at 440, and here's the beginning at station 390, and the road just simply stops. So if I step through my alignment, bridge, 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 then no bridge, and we've got back to our regular fill. Now, if you wanted to make the cross sections, or at least the profile, more realistic, here's the edge of my bridge. It's a vertical abutment. You would really have to go into our terrain module. If you wanted to make the abutment have a slope in the profile view, or if you wanted to accommodate, say, a wing wall supporting the fill on the back side of the ends of the bridge abutments, then you would need to get out of location module and go into our terrain module. It's beyond the scope of cross-section templates. Okay, but we could make the bridge look a little nicer. Rather than just being a blank, we could assign a bridge template. Now, I built one earlier, and it looks like this. Oh, notice here that I can save myself typing by clicking in the list until I get the one I want. Oh yeah, that's got the right station range. Now let's just change the actual template and click Add Edit. Once you've clicked Add Edit, then the list updates to show the new template. Let's see what that looks like. And there it is. So I built this template from some of our stock components. There's a jersey barrier there, and a railing on the outside, and the rest of it is a bridge template, which I'll show you in a second. It shows the roadway in the plan, which is a little bit narrower here, and if we look in the profile, no difference. Oh, strangely, there's no bridge abutment there, but it still shows the profile as it was. So that's a fairly nice approximation of a bridge. There is no engineering here. This is just a picture. But note there's no fill underneath. If I say hatch all fill areas, it does not get filled. Oh, I am noticing that there's some calculation of stripping at the bottom, and that would be something I'd like to turn off. So let's go into the template editor. Here's my bridge template, and it has properties. This is the highest level of properties. The template itself, it's quite a small amount of things you can change here. You can change the name. You can change the description. You can turn volumes on and off. This bridge has volumes turned on, but there's no volume underneath because of the way the template's defined. But you could turn volumes off here if you want no volumes at all. And this will disable clearing and stripping. So if I set that on and OK and recalculate, you'll see that the stripping, that's the dashed line under the ground here, disappears. We've still got stripping back here. There's my stripping. This saves a little bit of work. You don't have to go into the assign by range and change the stripping to exclude the bridge area. Now let's go back to the template editor and look at how we build these templates. So I'm going to modify my road to do a different treatment. So instead of putting a bridge in here, I'm going to change my cross section to be narrower. I'm going to put in a barrier, and I'm going to steepen up the slopes so that it doesn't take up as much room and doesn't have such a huge fill area. Now I can't do, well, I can do all of that by modifying the template, but I want to keep my old one, so I'm going to duplicate it. So I copy the existing template, paste it back in, and I'm going to just shift it up so it's underneath the other one. There we go. At the highest level of properties, I can change its name. So let's just call it RUR2, rural paved, steep fill. Or maybe it'd be more appropriate to call it large fill. Okay. So I haven't changed anything yet. It's a copy of the old one. When you click on the little plus sign beside the template name, it trees out and shows you all the components that the template is using. And I'm not going to add new components right now. I'm just going to modify the existing ones. Every component has properties. So for example, what I'd like to do here is I'd like to increase the width of my pavement. You can see the pavement lights up in the image. Let's zoom in a bit so that's more clear. When I click on any one of these components, it lights up in red, or pink actually, magenta. So there's the slopes component. There is no ditch component right now. It would be there if we were down in the ground. Oh, there it is. And this is the rural roadway component, which has 3 layers, and it's highlighted in magenta. Now I'm going to look at the properties, right click or click on the properties button, and every time I select a variable, it also highlights the affected part of the template. So I'm going to increase my pavement width because I want to put a barrier on top of the pavement, so I need it to be a little wider. So I'll make it 4, and you can see it instantly changes. Then I'm going to take my shoulder and I'm going to make it a little bit narrower. I'm not using the paved shoulder, I'm using the gravel shoulder. Every template has a different set of parameters here, and hopefully they have a good description underneath that defines what it is. So as soon as you click on it, you can see. So I'm going to make that 3/4 of a meter wide, and I'm also going to turn off the slope for the shoulder so it's now the same slope as the pavement. It says 0 here, but it's actually using the super elevation. In this case, we're in a curve, so it's sloping at the same super elevation as the pavement. Okay, now I want to change some slopes. So let's just quickly go through and do it all. I'm going to change the base slope. I'm going to change the sub-base slope. Now I've changed the slopes here. I want to also change the fill slope for the subgrade. That's controlled by this component here. And if I open up the properties, you can see it's a completely different set of parameters. I'm just going to change the final fill slope to be 2:1. Actually, let's make it a little steeper. We probably wouldn't be using gravel for this if we make it this steep. We might use shot rock or something, and I'll use that slope there. Okay. So now you can see on the left, my road is a little narrower and a lot steeper. So I did a lot of work on that. I don't want to have to do it all again on the right-hand side. So here's a trick. I'll just delete the right-hand components and then copy the left one and paste it to the right to make everything symmetric. Right. One more thing. I'd like to add a component here. I'd like to put in a jersey barrier on the edge of my pavement to prevent cars from falling down my steep fill slope. I will do that by getting it from my e-library. Here's all the things we can pick from the e-library. Walls and barriers. There's the jersey barrier that I wanted. And there's a lot of different components that are available for copy and paste. Now, this jersey barrier is the wrong size. So I'm just going to show you, I'm just going to merge in something I created in preparation for this. And it illustrates another point. You can save and retrieve template tables on your hard drive, and they're called TPL files. So if I click on merge and choose that template table, I can bring in, I created that in version 10, so a little warning. You won't see that unless you're getting something from a version 10 user, and version 10 is still in beta, so not likely to see that warning. Okay, what do I want to bring in? I want to bring in the slopes components and the walls and barriers, and that'll do. Okay, so this allows me to bring in components and templates from something that's stored on my hard drive, and I'm just going to replace the ones that are already there. Now, I want to add a jersey barrier on top here. Here's how I do it. I find the component that I'm interested in, which is in the walls and barriers, and there it is. Copy it. And we'll copy that and paste it on the right. Okay, so I'm going to save that table. Well, if I wanted to put this on my hard drive for future use, I would click on Save Table, and then I could put it into any one of these files. If I save over top of this file called normal, then that will be my default template when I create new road designs. I'm not going to actually save over it. When you create or modify templates and click OK, you're saving it with the document, and the next time you save the document, it'll be in there. Recalculate, nothing to do really. I haven't assigned the template. Let's assign it and see what happens. So I'm going to take my new roadway template. I'm going to add it between the same place the bridge was. So I'm replacing the bridge with the new roadway. Add edit. Now you can see that we've got a much tighter fill slope at the bottom here, and we better put our culvert back. So I'm going to put the culvert in. It's a natural channel culvert, and there we go. So that's a nicer cross section. My culvert is shorter. I'm using less fill material, and that's all quantified in the output and in the cross-sectional area here. But it's not looking great because this sudden change between one template and another. So here is the old roadway component without the jerseys on there, and I step ahead or back into the bridge or the fill over the culvert template, and it suddenly changes. Not very realistic. So I'm going to use the taper template. So there's my station range for the new one. Let's add the taper template. It's kind of like the BR template. It's always there. It has no parameters. You can't see it in the template table because you can't modify it, but it's always here for assigning, and you just have to give it reasonable station ranges. So I'll go from, let's go 20 meters back. So 370 to 390. That gives me a taper at the beginning. And then 440 to 460. That gives me a taper at the end. Let's see what happens. The plan view looks smooth and continuous. That's good. And let's display those jerseys because it's an interesting question. What happens to these features here? When you're doing a taper, all the parameters that are common between template number 1 out here and template number 2 in here are interpolated. So as we step through, this is this is fully, we're at station 432 before station 440, so we're fully in the steep fill zone. And as I step through here, that's the last cross section that's fully in the steep fill. We're starting on the taper, and now we're in the middle of the taper, and there we're at the end of it. Let's put in a couple of extra points so we can see that more clearly. So I'm going to put one here, 433, sorry, and one there, 437. There, that's more interesting, 445, 448. 450, we're almost up to 460. Okay, that's enough. Now you can see as I step through the process where it goes from fully steep to not so steep, a little wider on the shoulders. The jerseys disappear, and now we're into the fully wide template. Let's display those jerseys, plan options, template codes. Oh, I can't remember what codes they are, so I'm going to quickly look in the cross section. This is the outside of the jersey. That's called BR6 or barrier 6. And that's the inside, BR1. The R at the end just means it's on the right. So the plan can display all those point codes. BR1, control BR6, and BR1 right, and BR6 right. Okay, so I've selected them all with the control click. Yeah, that's fine. I don't need to change anything here, but you can control the line types. And there's my barriers. So we have a taper template going from 440 to 460, and the end of the barrier appears at 450. So the barrier can't be interpolated. It's either on or off, and it goes halfway down the taper template. As you recall, we set the taper between 440 and 460. Now that's not bad. It's a good approximation. But if we really wanted to make this right, we would use a thing called template overrides to control the jerseys in a better way. Just a quick preview of that. Let me save this as demo in case you want to come back to it. Oops, I saved over top of it. Oh well. There is the one with the final product. So you can see now the jerseys start at the beginning of the taper, 370 here, 460 there, and there's a bit of a widening at the end. So how would I do that? Well, let's now look at managing template properties using template overrides. So we've seen that you can change every parameter in the template just by going into the template table and modifying the properties. So here's all the properties I can change. And these have variable names. It's also possible to override these by attaching them to a reference feature. We're not going to cover that in this demonstration, but that's a possibility. And then there's this thing called overrides. And what we can do here is we can apply different values at different stations. Now, you can do all this inside the template editor, but I prefer to use a different place to do it. I'm going to show you that on a completely different design. Let's leave this one for a sec and go back to, I'm going to just start a new location module here. That's the easy way. Let's look at a simple problem. I want to add some turnouts to this resource road. It's just a simple one layer of gravel on top of subgrade cross section. And it's got tight curves and steep grades, and it's narrow enough that it would be good. It's only 6 meters wide to put in turning lane periodically to allow big trucks to pass each other. Typical for a radio controlled logging road or similar. Okay, so my road is all a constant width now. I'd like to add in a turning lane, particularly here going up this hill. Oh, do I have my road edges turned on? Not. Let's turn them on. Okay, there we go. So there's a big hill coming down here, and I'd like to put in a turning lane. Let's display the cross-section window at the same time here. We don't need this. And we don't need that. Yeah, you can see we're on a steep grade there. Okay. So where are we? Well, right here we're at station 1900 roughly, and you can see that the road is oriented so that the left-hand side is over there, and the right-hand side is over there. So if I was coming up the hill, I'd want to turn out on the right so that I could stop and let somebody coming down. So I want to turn out. Okay. Again, the assign by range allows me to change templates. I could create a template that is wider, but this is a little more elegant. Instead of changing templates and adding a wider template, I'm going to override the width of the existing template, which is down at the bottom. It's alphabetical on the left-hand side. Here we go. So I'm going to add a new, there we go. This is going to be called turnout. Let's duplicate that. So the beginning is at station 1900, the end is at station 2000. I haven't done anything yet because I'm just using the default value on all these points. Here's where it gets interesting. So 10 meters before the end, I'm going to put in a width of 9 meters, so that's an extra 6 meters on the side. And similarly, 10 meters after the beginning, so there's a typical template override. Start with the default, continue with the default until the beginning of the modification, taper up from that to a new value, hold that value, taper back down, and then continue with the default. See what that looks like. There we go. And one more thing, let's just turn on the road width because I lost that change. There it is. So there's my turnout. And as you can see, it tapers. So if I look at a cross section right in the middle here, right there, it'll be tapered out halfway. And I don't need the profile. There's the plan. And there's halfway tapered. If we go back, there's the full turnout. There's tapering, tapering, and back to the narrow width. So I didn't need to make a new template. I could just override the parameter. And if I want, if I wanted this elsewhere, there's a great tool in here for duplicating a collection of overrides. So here I've selected 4 overrides. I click on duplicate and say, well, you know, I'd like to see another one of these at station 2500. And there it is. And you can do that as many times as you like. And of course, that will update when I recalculate, and we'll see the turnout override. Over here. Well, once you've got that idea, now you can do fairly complicated things. So let's go back. Keep that open just in case. Yeah, just in case. Let's go back to the one I showed you with the tapered jersey barriers, and we'll see how I did that. So we saw that the template was overridden with a taper, and that took care of all the things like the slopes and the shoulder widths and the pavement widths that needed to change gradually from one treatment to another. And here's how I dealt with the jersey overrides. There we are. And so I had to do this in 2 places. I had to do the barrier offset in 2 places. Oh, and include barrier in 2 places. So it's a bit of extra work. Let's just look at the barrier offset first. What I did is I assigned the barrier everywhere, and then I applied these different offsets in the zone where I want to taper. And I didn't want to see the barrier everywhere, so I used the include barrier variable. Now it's a variable that doesn't mean anything except turn the barrier on or turn the barrier off. So between the beginning of the road and 370, the barrier is not visible. At 370.1, it's on. And it stays on until 460. And then it turns itself off again. Right, so I used overrides to do 2 things with the barriers. Oh, and notice that to make that work, I had to actually go into the template editor here and add the barrier to this road as well. So, or this template. So it's in both templates. In this template, it doesn't look very good because it's not wide enough right now, but you get the idea. Okay, and there it is. That's all. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, well, thank you, everyone. And if you have any technical questions as you go to tackle your cross-section templates, please don't be a stranger. You can reach out to us, support.softree.com. There's a whole bunch of contact forms up there, or you can reach our support team, support.team@softree.com. Other than that, have an awesome rest of your day and hope to see you all again at a webinar soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.